finally get around to getting ready for winter. So this past week I took a little time to seek out the winter gloves, find the jumper cables, find the snow shovels, salt, etc., etc. Still haven't found everything but the parable I thought about. But also a friend shared with me a more modern version of this parable that I thought fit us. Especially if you haven't heard the winter cold that's coming our way and the prep about. So it went like this. He titles this parable, The Snow Approaches. I went to the hardware store the other day to buy a snow shovel because we were all told about a storm coming that night. Needless to say, I was not alone. The hardware store was full of other last-minute shoppers looking to do the same thing. As I stood there in line with my shovel and my bag of salt, I thought about the parable of the 10 maidens, which is our text this morning. And I thought about a new way to tell the story. Then the kingdom of heaven shall be compared to 10 people who sat down one night to watch the evening news. Before long, the all-wise, the all-knowing, and always accurate weatherman appeared on the TV set and spoke. Behold, he said, the first snowstorm of the year approaches, so be prepared. At midnight it shall be upon you, and in the morning there shall be whiteness on the ground, which shall reach up to your knees. Thus says your weatherman. 5 of the 10 people were prepared, so they sat comfortably in their homes and watched the rest of the news. But the other 5 were not prepared. They had no shovels, and they wondered where they had left their winter gloves. So they jumped into their cars and raced to the store with money in hand, desperately hoping they could lay an offering upon the altar of the cash register and get a shovel in return. But behold, they were too late. The door to the store was locked. The gods of commerce would accept no more offerings until the morning. The 5 people went home and asked their neighbors, do you have a shovel I can borrow? Their neighbors said, no, I don't. I have only one, and I'll be using it tomorrow. The snow approaches, and you pay no attention to the day or the hour. You should have been prepared. I thought that was sort of a fun version, especially after I found my gloves and shovel. And so I feel a little more confident and prepared than in that parable. But I thought it was modern, and it sets up for us the next 3 weeks. All the next lessons for the next 3 weeks are going to come from the 25th chapter of Matthew. You may want to read these 3 parables back to back with Jesus and in preparation for that. They all deal with the end times. For you see, this is the last chapter before Jesus. We hear about Jesus' suffering and death. The road to Jerusalem, to the cross, and to the resurrection. So Matthew gives us 3 parables to think about and to direct us and teach us a little bit about this. I especially like today's with the wedding. Wedding preparations, it always to me is one of the joyful parts of time to watch people and how they react and how they prepare or they not prepare. This past week a couple came in. This is one of the joy couples. I always tell couples you can prepare ahead of time. So last winter, they began preparation for their wedding. Last spring, details were done as far as I was concerned. We were done and all the preparations had been made. So last week they came in, brought in a musician to look things over, go over things one more time. And they looked at me and said, we can't believe it's already here. We're not sure we're ready. I felt comfortable, I am. But maybe you've been planning such an event, maybe a wedding, maybe Christmas coming up, or other events. Where even no matter how much time you had, you come to the event and you don't feel like you're ready for whatever reason. You feel unprepared and you're going through the list. And as I sit around those celebrations and those parties, one of the things that always strikes me is some people, they have a lot of fun. They're there for the event no matter what has happened, No matter what has gone right or wrong, they're enjoying themselves. There's always those who are not. I thought about the contrast in the parable I'm about to share. No matter how much time, how much preparation, they just don't seem able to enjoy and celebrate. And sometimes when the whole thing is over, they're just relieved that it's done. I don't know if they even smiled through the event. So Jesus tells this parable today, I think brings that imagery of us in our life with God. So I think that's what Jesus in this chapter is trying to give us. God comes each and every day. And are we ready? And do we find that joy? And are we going to be ready for the end times? I think what the parable tells us, when that end times comes, there's a joy and the resurrection and a celebration that is ours, especially if we've known that through our lifetime. And we celebrate it and find God in each day. In biblical times, the setting for this, the wedding wasn't about two individuals coming together. And it wasn't quite the same etiquette. The wedding was about the continuation of life for the entire community. It was a community event. It was new life and new being and a new chapter of life for all the community that was gathered around, especially in the small villages, but even in the cities. It was a recognition that life goes on. New life and new relationships. As part of the setting for today's parable. I'd like to share that with you now. It comes from the 25th chapter of Matthew, and again, the first of 3 in that chapter. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout. Look, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him. Then all those bridesmaids got up, trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise replied, no, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves. And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came. And those who were ready went with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he replied, truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. It ends our gospel. I think it's about this time and this day of waiting for us to see and be ready. Be ready for Jesus to come like the bridegroom in celebration and joy to you and me each day. That is how he comes. Henry Nouwen, a writer, he talked about that same part of this parable, that period of waiting, where most of us often find ourselves like the 10 bridesmaids that are in the parable. He wrote, what strikes me is that waiting is a period of learning. The longer we wait, the more we hear about for him for whom we are waiting. The gospel here seems to suggest something in a call for disciples, that we remain alert and attentive to the movement of God in the world as we wait. So as we wait that eschaton and that coming, we're reminded that Jesus comes to us each day. He comes to us in the faces and the presence of other people. He comes to us in our hopes and dreams. He comes to us in our laughter and our joy. But he always comes with life, no matter what is happening. He comes with life and he comes with joy. So this is the promise, that he is with us. Part of the wedding celebration would have been sharing in the meal. And part of remembering this parable is we join in sharing of communion this day. That we might be reminded that Jesus comes to you and me in the worship on Sundays and every day of our life. And he comes with life and he comes with joy. And as now and said, as we wait not passively but actively. Sharing God's love with one another and learning more about God's love for us. And sharing that love with the people around us more and more each and every day. So let's join in the bread and wine of communion. And be reminded of God's presence, of Jesus' presence with each of us this day.